What's up, people? How you doing? How you doing? This is Coach Renz again. Coach Renz again. Told you at least once a week we will continue to do our live on TikTok and on YouTube. We were doing our live of the series of what's wrong with the Bible. Once again, how do I come about this series? Is because I kept getting inundated by people saying, you don't know your Bible. You need to read your Bible. Go read your Bible. So we decided we're gonna read it, at least Genesis, and maybe Exodus, maybe Leviticus as well. We're gonna go pay word for word and chapter for chapter. Now I know in the past, if I was doing it for a lot longer time, we would do 2 chapters in one shot, but we're only doing 1 chapter today. We're gonna do chapter 30 in Genesis. And again, if you are a person who wants to, and your religion, your Christianity is all, and you're steadfast there, and that's what you want to be, that's fine. Stay there. Nobody's asking you to do anything different. This is not for you. This is for, as I've said with my channels many times before, this channel is 1 for my children, but then 2 for people who have walked away from traditional religions and are going through this to reaffirm, to understand, re-educate, relearn, and further solidify why we don't follow this book as far as believing this is the word of God. Of course, if there are questions and things of that nature, we'll definitely answer them. But because dinner is going to be ready in about an hour, I'm going to go ahead and get started so that we can do this in like an hour, and then we can move on with our day. So just to recap, Genesis 29. Genesis 29 was the whole deal with, we're talking about Jacob here and how Jacob, was tricked into marrying Leah, and how the whole reason why he didn't like Leah is because she had a lazy eye, right? And then he wanted Rachel. He gets with Rachel, and then they start having the baby wars. So he got tricked into working for 14 years for free for his uncle Laban, so that he can marry his cousin. And then they got into the whole baby wars of it all between Leah and Rachel. Now at this point, I believe Leah has had 4 sons. Rachel hasn't had any. And we also saw in chapter 29 how Leah had this mentality that the only way her husband can love her is if she has a baby. And if she has sons, then her husband will love her. But of course, that wasn't what's happening. And even God said that she was hated. So since it's kind of weird, love, she didn't get love when she had the first boys. So now you're going to give her another boy, as if that's going to change the love, like the whole love thing. But so we got a woman who's married to this man who's not loved. Now it's going to get worse. It's going to get worse here in chapter 30. The whole baby thing gets worse. And then we're going to see some serious mad scientist bullshit that's going to happen in chapter 30. So let us get started. So in chapter 30 of Genesis, and I'm reading from this King James Bible. So it's not my favorite version to read. So it starts, and when Rachel saw that she had bare Jacob no children, Rachel envied her sister and said unto Jacob, give me children, or else I will die. And that's interesting. Rachel has been barren this whole time. But in her mind, she's thinking that it is because of her husband that she doesn't have children. So she's saying, give me children or I will die. Because what are we establishing here once again? That the value of a woman during these time frames, the value of a woman was her ability to produce children. Had nothing to do with her mind, had nothing to do with her heart. It was all having to do with her ability to produce children. So Rachel is distressed, and she said, give me children or I would die. They've obviously been trying to have children. They've been having sex since Rachel is the one that he loved, but she thinks she's going to die. This is metaphorical, of course, but, she's in that state of depression. And Jacob's anger was kindled against Rachel. And he said, am I in God's stead, who hath withheld from thee the fruit of thy womb? So at least Jacob got some sense to know that I ain't got nothing to do with this lady. I'm not the one that's making you barren. I'm not the one that's preventing you from having children. And he said, behold, and then she said, behold, and this is where it started to get a little stupid. And I want you guys to understand, people accept this book as the written word of God, yet know that if these things, that with what I'm about to read right now was done today, then we would say that that person, that group of people are morally bankrupt. But yet we want to say that this is the word of God. And then people will jump and say, well, the New Testament, what Jesus. No, you're taking this whole book. Unless you are a person in Christianity who says that the Old Testament is an evil, demented God from the deluge. I mean, from the I done messed up the word, not the deluge. But this is an old evil God, and that the Old Testament God is not has anything to do with Christianity. Unless you're saying that, then you're saying that this book, this is your God, and your God approved of all of this that's about to go down. And in this approval, he's going to approve of one of the things that should make women and Black people say hell no to this, right? Hell no to this. And she said, and she said, behold, my maid Bilhah, go into her, and she shall bear upon my knees. I also have children by her. And she gave him Bilhah, her handmaid, to wife. And Jacob went into her. And Bilhah conceived a son, and Bilhah conceived and bare Jacob a son. What did I just read? What did they just say? Basically, Rachel said, hey, here's my slave. So the Bible slave. You're going to marry my slave, make her your wife. How do they get married in the Bible? You have sex with somebody. Here's my wife, here's my slave, have sex with her. And then she's going to bear a child. But when she bears that child, it's not going to be Bilhah's child. It's going to be Rachel's child. Now we're saying that this is the moral right. This is the morality that people want to base their God off of. And you can't say, oh, well, that's man. This is where your 12 tribes of Israel come from. Jacob's name is changed to Israel. This is the one that wrestled with God. This is the one who was lauded. Abraham, Jacob, and Isaac. This is the dude here, right? Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. And here we are having a slave woman who obviously had absolutely no say in this as to whether or not she wanted to have sex with this dude, if she wanted to marry this dude, and if she wanted to bear children with her. But because she's Rachel's slave, she has no choice but to marry this man and then have a baby by this man. So effectively, this book, this moral decay, is saying that slavery is cool, especially if it's a woman, and forcing a woman to marry somebody, forcing a slave to marry somebody, that's cool too. We could do that as well. So, yeah. And Bilhah, she conceived and bare a son. And Rachel said, God hath judged me and hath also heard my voice and have given me a son. Therefore, she called his name Dan. Rachel this lady is forced to marry the man, forced to have sex with the man, have a baby, and then Rachel claims the baby as hers. She claimed the baby as hers. Now, in today's world, we would say these people were morally bankrupt. We would say that these people are horrible, but that is wrong. There is absolutely no way we would allow this in today's world. But yet, we're saying that people are saying this is God's word. This is the way things should have been even at that time frame. Even if you want to put it into, well, it was a different time and blah, 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 all this, as if the people of that day could not understand no one should be a slave. No one should be forced into marriage. If you have a baby, that's your child, not your mistress, your madam, your slave owner can just claim your children. This is that bullshit. And people, and you gotta understand, when slavery was happening in South America, especially in Brazil, they had little rules to this. Whereas if the man has sex with a slave and the slave has a baby, then the slave will be part of the inheritance, especially if it's a boy. But if the woman has sex with a slave and she has the baby, then the child is not part of the inheritance. You see what I'm saying? And Cookie, you're right. You can get a surrogate, and usually the surrogate is willing. This is a slave who has no choice. But those kinds of mentality exist. They continue to flow right up into like the 1800s, 1900s, that people still had that mentality that you can have babies and then just take the child. Hell, we know in the Black community, I'm sure some of y'all may know people where there's a husband, there's a wife. The husband cheats on the wife, has sex with another woman, has a baby, and that wife goes and take that baby from that lady. I know of people who have done that. The wife goes and take the baby. But here, do you want to know where to get that mentality from? Right here, the Morally Bankrupt book. All right. So he said, and Bilhah, Rachel's maid, and they keep saying maid, Rachel's slave, conceived again and bare Jacob a second son. So this woman still has to keep having sex with this man, this slave, who is now his wife. So his slave wife. And Rachel said, with great wrestling have I wrestled with my sister, and I have prevailed. And she called his name, I'm gonna mess this name up, Nephtali, or Nephtali or something, Nephtali. Now, you see how Rachel is claiming this like it's a fight between her and her sister. See, the mentality of a woman back then was that she was Cookie said she was a maid. She was her handmaid, which she was a slave, right? It's earlier in the chapter. It tells you that's her slave, and handmaids were slaves. They were not willing people. So she's in this competition with Leah because why? Because these women know that their value to their husband, their value is whether or not they can have a baby. Now, this woman, Leah has already given him 4 sons. So I don't know how Rachel thinks she's won, because she's only given him 2 sons, and those 2 sons came from his slave wife and not come from her. Rachel ain't had no babies, but because she's able to claim the child of her slave wife, she's taken these 2 babies from Bilhah as her own. Now, when Leah saw that she had left bearing, meaning that she wasn't having babies no more, she took Zilpah, her maid, and gave her to Jacob to wife. So Leah, like, if you can do it, I can do it too. If you can do it, I can do it too. So she gave him another. So now he got 2. He married Leah by being tricked. Then he married Rachel. He had to work them extra 7 years, which these 2 are sisters. Then Bilhah, and I think Bilhah and Zephyr are the handmaiden, the slaves of Rachel and Leah. And so now they have to marry him. So now he got 4 wives. So when y'all start talking about polygamy is wrong, 4 wives. And the only time in the New Testament it says that a man should only have 1 wife, that's when it says pastors and deacons should only have 1 wife. Doesn't say anything about everybody else. So 4 wives. He got 4. 2 slaves' wives and 2 sister wives. Right? And Zilpah's Leah's handmaid bare Jacob a son. And Leah said, a truth cometh. And she called his name Gad. So Leah just taking the child too. Same scenario. You have no rights. This book tells women that you have no rights to your body, no rights to your children. You know, depending upon your stature in the community, that determines your rights. And Zilpah's, Leah's maiden, bare Jacob a second son. So now he had 4 straight up by Leah. Then he got 2 slave wife sons by Leah's slave. Then he got 2 from Bilhah. So this joker is now running around. He got wives. Y'all keep track. And Leah said, happy am I, for the daughters will call me blessed. And she called his name Asher. They're going to call her blessed. Her slave had children, but she blessed. And Reuben went in, and Reuben went in the days of wheat harvest and found mandrakes Now, Reuben is one of the sons that Leah had earlier. Found mandrakes in the field. And mind you, say he found them. And there's a reason why they being found is something. He can take care of them, bless it. Well, at this time frame, Jacob is still working for Laban. So Jacob ain't got shit. Right? He's still working for Laban. But he gonna get some stuff through some bullshit in a little bit. So just hold on. He gonna get some stuff. So he found some mandrakes. So Reuben found some mandrakes in the field, and he brought them unto his mother Leah. Then Rachel said to Leah, "Give me, I pray thee, of thy son's mandrakes." And she said, now the reason why mandrakes are an important one of the reasons mandrakes are an important item back then. If consumed too much, mandrakes can kill you. But if you take mandrakes correctly, mandrakes work as an aphrodisiac. Okay, so it works as the keep it strong and everything. So, and she said to her, "Is it a small matter that thou hast taken my husband? And wouldest thou take away my son's mandrakes also?" So, because Leah knew that Jacob really didn't like her ass, so he really wanted Rachel. But then when Rachel becomes his wife, now Rachel is being loved while Leah is being hated. So she feels some kind of way. And now you want to take my son? He went out and got a good find, and now you want to take his good find. So she feels some kind of way, and I don't blame her. Saying Rachel said, "Therefore he shall take away my son mandrake." And Rachel said, "Therefore he shall lie with thee tonight for thy son's mandrakes." So you see the deal they just cut. These women are ruthless. They funny. Fighting over Jacob. Rachel just said, if you give it, Leah, amen. So Rachel wants the mandrakes. And in order for her to get the mandrakes from Leah's son, her deal is, if you give me the mandrakes, it must be Rachel's night. Oftentimes in a polygamous situation, the wives have different nights that they get to lay with the husband. Rachel is willing to give up her night to have sex with Jacob for some mandrakes. So it's like she's buying off her own husband. And Jacob came out of the field in the evening, and Leah went out to meet him and said, "Thou must come in unto me, for surely I have hired thee with my son's mandrakes." And he lay with her that night. So imagine your wife coming to you when soon as you come out to get out the car. "Hey, I done paid for your booty tonight. I done paid for your penis. I made a penis payment with some mandrakes. So come on and give it up, because I need my payment." Because Leah's trying to get another baby, because this is the baby race that we're doing. We're in the baby race. And God hearkened unto Leah, and she conceived and bare Jacob a fifth son. So when she thought she was barren, now she's still having babies. And so she had a fifth son. And Leah said, "God hath given me my hire." So basically, because I gave the mandrakes, I hired this joker. The result of my investment of the mandrakes is to get another son. And I have because I have given thee my maiden to my husband, and she called his name Issachar. Well, he just having so many babies. And Leah conceived again and bare Jacob a sixth son. They ain't gonna tell you the story how he got there. Just she conceived again. And Leah said, "God hath endured me with a good dowry. Now will my husband dwell with me, because I have bore him 6 sons." And she called his name Zebulun. So now she thinks her husband is going to dwell with her, because he's going to love her, he's going to take care of her, he's going to be there with her, because she not produced, 6 sons of her own, and then 2 that she stole from one of her slaves. Right? And afterwards, she bare a daughter and called her name Dinah. Now, here's one thing that you guys should find interesting about the Bible, period. Anytime they mention a woman, she must be important. Any other time, they just say a woman, a prostitute. They never use the woman's name. If the woman doesn't have an integral part to play, her name is never mentioned in this book. So just know that this little girl Dana later on, she gonna have a part to play. And that also shows you how much the woman is devalued, because they'll name a dude who ain't got nothing to do with nothing, but they will not name a woman unless she's important to the plot of a man. And God remembered Rachel, and God hearkened to her, and he opened her womb. And she conceived and bare a son, and said, God has taken away my reproach. And she called his name Joseph. Joseph in the Technicolor shirt. And said, the Lord shall add to me another son. And it came to pass, when Rachel had borne Joseph, that Jacob said unto Laban, send me away, that I may go into my own place and to my own country. So now Rachel now finally has some children of her own. She can stop forcing slaves to marry her husband and then produce a baby and then take the baby away from him. Y'all see how demented that is? How demented is that? That it was okay, and God was blessing, and God was opening wombs and closing wombs. Also, these women can fight. And people will say, well, he had to do that in order for the 12 tribes. No, he didn't. He did not. It is easily possible for one woman to have 12 sons, and then those 12 sons from that one woman and that one man be the 12 tribes of Israel. But no, in order for this God to produce his 12 tribes of Israel, he got to say, Leah got a lazy eye. We got to make sure that she get married. Rachel cute and fine, so she got to come next. But then she all, make her barren so that Leah will go ahead and have a whole bunch of babies and all this kind of stuff. And then they trading slave wives in and forcing slaves to have babies so you can get more kids. This is just foolishness. This is just foolishness. That if I was the writer of this, just me writing, I wouldn't have written something so convoluted and something so with so many working parts. It would have just been clean and simple, and it would have been good. There would have been no slaves. There would have been no slave wives. Laban wouldn't have tricked Jacob into marrying his daughter, and the only reason he married her because she had a lazy eye. It would have been none of that. It would have been simple. It would have been clean. It would have been good. It would have been something that people can actually, read as a love story and as a family building story, or a nation building story. But this is some utter bullshit. This is some foolishness. This just is demonstrating how the value of women are so low that we got to trick people into marrying our daughters. That the value of women are so low that if they don't produce sons, then they're not loved. Right? If they're barren, then they're not loved. They don't have value. The woman was so depressed, she thought she was going to die if she doesn't produce children for this man. But now we're going to go ahead and get into some other bullshit, some magic. Now, I'm not a biology expert, but I know enough about fertility and about biology that what I'm about to read to y'all is going to be some straight up bull. Hey, Keidra, how you doing? All right. So, and it came to pass when Rachel had born Joseph, that Jacob said unto Laban, send me away. Now notice he didn't want to leave until Rachel got him a son. Then he ready to go. Rachel got to get a son, the one that he loved, because he was treating Leah like crap. That I might go into my own place and to my country. Give me my wives and my children, for whom I have served thee, and let me go. For thou knowest my service which I have done thee. And Laban said unto him, I pray thee, if I have found favor in thine eyes, tarry. Means wait. For I have learned by experience that the Lord hath blessed me for thy sake. All right. A lot of people in the church, they read this part, right? Yeah, a whole bunch of foolishness. They read this part here and they say that, well, Jacob was there for those 14 years and it blessed Laban, and that's why Laban wanted him there. No, it's just like we discussed last week. If I got free labor from somebody for 14 plus years, of course I'm blessed. Of course I'm acquiring more because my expenses are much lower. You see, if you came and worked for me at the cigar lounge or the popcorn shop, for 14 years, and I don't have to pay you the entire time, then of course I'm not paying a certain amount of taxes. I'm not paying wages. I'm not paying a lot of money, so I can take that money and reinvest it. So if he didn't have to give out, because remember, back in those days, if a man marries, you married a daughter, the man gives a dowry. Well, Jacob didn't have a dowry to give, so he has nothing to give to Laban, but he gave free labor. So of course, with Jacob's ability as a shepherd that he understood, he grew up doing with his parents. Remember, when he left, he was a shepherd. Remember, his brother Esau, he goes out into the field. He goes out and do the hunting, killing, and all that kind of stuff. So of course, this man know how to shepherd. He used to hang on his mama's skirt. All my children, he worked there 100 years. Thank you. I don't know about 100 years. It says that he worked there 100 years, unless I'm missing something, but we'll see. But if I got you to work free for me, I'm going. You might mean that joke, so I'm not sure. So where were we? So Laban wants him to stay. Of course you do. But people take that to say he was blessed because of Jacob's presence. Now Jacob is a scoundrel. He's a scoundrel, and so is Laban. Both of them are. And I'm telling you, if you really look at this book, you'll understand that the worse you are, the better you profit. You're horrible, and they're like, "Oh God, forgive me," and then you feel forgiven. You think that God has blessed you, and then you go out and you do some more jackets. Like, "Oh God, I know I got this. Forgive me," and then you just keep going. Y'all wonder how y'all be like, "These people who rich, they this, they that." This is how they do it. This is how they do it. And he said, appoint me thy wages, and I will give it. So now Laban is saying, look, dude, okay, I know the first time you asked for the wages, and all you asked for was my daughter. I tricked your ass after 7 years, gave you the wrong daughter, but then I tricked you again. You have to stay for another 7 years free to get the daughter that you want. So I got 14 years out of you, 14 years a slave, out of you for that. So now he wasn't loyal. He was just he wanted that Rachel Punani, that Rachel Poom Poom was looking good to him. And that's why he stayed there. Because remember, that's all he wanted was Rachel. Because his mother, his whole mission was to go get a wife. His mother, Rebecca, was like, go to my kinman, get a wife. That was the whole purpose. Because that's some good punani. You got that, Rachel got that good poom poom. That's that man worked 14 years free. So now he's asking him about some wages again. This time Jacob's a little bit smarter, but he connived. And he said unto him, thou knowest how I have served thee, and how thy cattle was with me. For it was little which thou hadst before I came, and it is now increased unto a multitude. And the Lord hath blessed thee since my coming. And now, when shall I provide? When shall I provide for my own house also? Now, here's another thing, and this is how this gets in people's mind. Jacob said, hey, it's been good while I was here. And you've seen that your cattle has multiplied. You see how God has blessed me. You see how God's blessed me. Now, it may not have. Now, here's the question. If God truly just blesses, then Jacob could have sat on his ass, not doing nothing, just let his presence be there. But what work did Jacob do? What work did he do? What's the cause and effect of it all? Right? If you sitting up there, and I would call this a miracle. I would call this a blessing. If a person just came into my popcorn shop and all you did was just sit on a stool in a corner, and because of your presence, God made a multitude of people come in. The person didn't do any marketing. The person is not letting anybody know they're there. They're not cooking. They're not popping popcorn. They're not cleaning anything. They're not having great customer service. They're just present. And the multitudes of people came simply because that person is blessed by God. That would be something. But we know that the law of cause and effect is always in play, that there is nothing that happens without cause and effect. Jacob wasn't just sitting on his duff. No, Jacob was taking care of the animals, making sure they get watered at the right place and time, making sure they got fed, finding good fields for the animals to eat, making sure that the strong animals mate with the strong animals so that you have a stronger herd. He was doing a shepherd's job. And because he's doing a shepherd's job, as long as there's no catastrophe, no diseases, nothing foolish happen, then of course you should receive a bounty for it, right? So that's how it should. Yeah, you know how things multiply. Exactly. That's how it compounds. You make sure you're not consuming too much of your product, your profit. You know, you can't have 10 new sheep and then you go eat all 10 of them. No, you got to let some of them grow up so that they can, you know, become mothers and fathers and produce more babies, produce more sheep. So just basic business. It's not a blessing from God. No, a blessing will be you sit on your ass. I'm sitting right here right now. I do not play the lottery. Well, I mean, I say I don't play. Every now and then I might get a ticket. But in order for me to say that God bless me, I would have to be sitting in here right now. Don't buy a ticket. But then they just call me up and say, you won the lottery. But I ain't buy no ticket. God told us that you won the lottery. Then I say, you know what? Miracle. But if I go buy a ticket and I win, it's not a miracle. It's cause and effect. I beat the odds. That's it. So let's get to the magic. And he said, what shall I give thee? And Jacob said, though thou not give me anything. Now, this is a good old trick, you know, from Abraham days. No. When he was talking to the little folk, I forgot who the people he was talking to. He was like, the Edomites, I think. Nah, I don't want you to give me nothing. I want to pay for it. You know, I don't want you to owe me nothing. Right? I don't want you to owe me nothing. I want to make it so this is a swerve, just like Abraham did a swerve. He said, if thou wilt do this thing for me, I will again feed and keep thy flock. Meaning that if you did this for me, then I'll be indebted to you. Right? I'll be indebted to you. He said, I will pass through all thy flock today, removing from thence all the speckled and spotted cattle, and all the brown cattle among the sheep, and the spotted and speckled amongst the goats, and of such shall be my hire. Okay, so it's going to be his wage. So shall my righteousness answer for me in time to come. And this is some bullshit here. And when it shall come for my hire before thy face, everyone that is not speckled or spotted among the goats and brown among the sheep, thou shalt be counted stolen with me. Now they had this mentality where it's brown, off-colored white, off-colored sheep, speckled, spotted sheep or cattle, that they were weaker than other cattle. That's what their mindset. You say you'll be back. We're gonna be doing this for about 30 more minutes, maybe. So understand that. And Laban said, behold, I would it might be according to thy word. Now he said that you're gonna know that I'm an honest person. I'm honest because unless you see a white sheep, cattle, goat, unless you see one that's not, you ain't gonna see none of that. I'm only gonna have the speckled and spotted ones. I'm gonna have the ones that we decide is weak. I'm gonna have them. If you see me with anything else, then you know I'm a scoundrel. I'm lying to you. I'm full of chicanery. So and he removed that day the goats that were ring stark and spotted, and all the she goats that were speckled and spotted, and every one that had some white in it, and all the brown among the sheep. And he gave them into the hands of his sons. And he set them 3 days' journey betwixt himself and Jacob. And Jacob fed the rest of Laban's flock. So he sent his sons out there with the speckled and the spotted, right? So the speckled and spotted sheep and goats and cattle, the off-white goats and cattle and stuff, they're gone. They're 3 days away. So he's like, look, I'm gonna send the speckled one 3 days journey. It ain't gonna be close. There's a reason for this. You gotta play the long con, right? You only play the long con. All right. And that's what he's playing. Jacob is playing the long con right now. He said, and so Jacob stayed there with the rest of Laban's flock, all the ones that are, they look good. And Jacob took him rods of green polar and of hazel and chestnut tree, and peeled white starks on and peeled white starks on them, and made the white appear, which was on the rods. Okay, so you're taking some brown wood, some brown branches and tree stuff, and he's stripping some of them to make them striped. So we got some striped wood. And he set the rods, which he had pulled before the flocks, in the gutters. In the gutters up in the water throws. When the flock came to drink, that they should conceive when they came to drink. And the flocks conceived before the rods, and brought forth cattle, ring-stark, speckled, and spotted. And Jacob did separate the lambs, and set the faces of the flocks towards the ring-stark, and all the brown in the flocks of Laban. And he put his own flocks by themselves, and put them not into Laban's cattle. And it came to pass, whensoever the stronger cattle did conceive, that Jacob laid the rods before the eyes of the cattle in the gutters, that they may conceive amongst the rods. And when the cattle were feeble, he put them not in, so that the feebler were Laban's, and that the stronger were Jacob's. And the man increased exceedingly, and had much cattle, and maidservants, and men servants, slaves and female slaves and male slaves, and camels and asses. So basically, according to the Bible, well, first let's look at the swerve. He just said that he's an honest man, that you'll know his honesty. He took all the speckled, spotted sheep, and set them 3 days apart. Then he took the regular ones, the ones they said was good to go, the white ones, and he put some striped wood in front of them. So when they conceived, when they had sex, they would have babies that had stripes and speckles and spots. And then when the strong ones came in, he let them mate in front of the striped ones. But when the weak ones came in, he didn't let them mate in front of those stripes, so that Laban's sheep was weaker, and he got the strong cattle. But he's an honest man, right? Jacob's an honest man. I'm gonna pull off this most non-scientific magic trick. And that's the thing. When Christians tell me that they don't believe in magic, okay, what the fuck was that? What was that? Honestly, what was that? Tell me that's possible. If anybody is about it, tell me that's possible. What is this? Oh, I didn't know what that was. But tell me, how is that possible? That's an impossibility. That's an impossible. And here's the thing. There has been some shepherds who's tried to repeat this process, because what they want to do is prove that the Bible is determine what the baby gonna look like. That's DNA. See, here's the thing. These people back then didn't understand DNA. They didn't understand traits, genetic traits. They didn't know about recessive genes and dominant genes. So when you are writing this story, when the writers wrote this story, they can add some stuff like that. And then they can say, well, the only reason it worked because God was blessing and was with Jacob, which is why if you tried it and it didn't work, well, you have some sin about you. Maybe you need to go to the priest and offer us. And if the priest is like, yeah, come to us and give us a sin offering. Because remember, back then, a sin offering was that they would get all these goats and sheep and all this kind of stuff. So the sin offering was pretty good. And when we get into Leviticus, in Leviticus, it talks about how whatever animals that you give for and are offering to the priest, well, it's to God, but you give it to the priest, that it can't be lame. It got to be like the healthiest and the best. It's got to be like that Angus meat got to be coming to the priest. So of course they're like, oh, it didn't work for you. Well, you need to give us an offering. Give us your best, right? So, and pastors still use this mentality today, telling people, oh, you got to give your best so that God can bless you. But this is a swerve. There's no way first of all, it's just in the morality of it, the writing. If you took the writing for exactly as it is, Jacob, then Laban swerved Jacob, but Jacob got his revenge by swerving Laban, and he prefaced it by saying, "I'm an honest person." Obviously, he's not honest if he already had this plan of how to make sure that Laban had a weak flock and he has a strong flock, right? If you can't read and understand Hebrew and Greek, you are lost. That English is definitely not it. Yeah, see, here's the thing. I can, and there ain't no difference in this story. That's the thing. I like when people try to say that, well, you can read in this language or that language. But see, even reading in the Greek, it wasn't even originally written in Greek. So the Greek really doesn't matter. So when people tout out the Greek, especially when you talk about the Old Testament, then that in itself is a waste of time and understanding. But at the end of the day, if you cannot read the Sumerian cuneiform, then you don't know what you're really reading, because this is a copy of the Sumerian stories. That's all this is, a copy of the Sumerian stories, which is written in cuneiform. So when you like to come and say, if you can't read the Hebrew or the Greek, then you're lost. If you can't read the cuneiform, you're seriously lost, because then you don't know the history of the people who was copying the story to which they was getting it from. So anyway, why by the water? Way by the water? Way by the water, way by the water. Oh, that's that song. Oh, it's Wading in the Water. I think it's the name. Is that song? My grandma used to sing that song, I think. Wading in the water. Wading in the water, children, we. You always had an old person singing that song. But yeah. Look, no disrespect, dude, but Krimmer, but this channel ain't for people who love these books, who thinks that the God of Israel is the God. That's not what this is about. All right. But if you're going to make certain statements, you need to be able to back those statements up with a little bit more than you need to be able to read the Hebrew and the Greek. Because I guarantee you, most people who say that don't know how to read the Hebrew or the Greek. And like I said, if you can't read the Sumerian cuneiform, then you still don't know what you read. You think this when he wrestles with God at Pineal later on in the story? No, that's L. That's Enlil. That's Enlil. Oh, my pleasure. See that, dude? And see this. What we have to do is understand that even if you look at this book, certain parts of it you can take in and say, okay, that might have a good understanding. That's something that I can apply to my life. But there's absolutely nothing in the whole story of Joseph that we've read so far that is applicable to life that is of good morality. No matter what version of this you ever read, the fact that this man was going to his uncle to marry his cousin, and he's already a product of incest himself, but to go marry his cousin, and then his uncle tricked him into marrying the daughter that had the lazy eye simply because nobody else would marry her, and they only valued women based on their ability to produce sons. And then he had to work 14 years as a slave, as a servant to Laban, and then he was able to get the woman that he wanted, but had to take on the older sister as well as a wife. And then Leah's having babies with this fool, but he don't love her, don't care about her. Even God, and even your God in chapter 29 said that she was hated. So he gave her, and his fix for her being hated was to give her another son, which it still didn't matter, because in 30, we see that she got a son and she's still hoping that her husband would love her. Then the women are just going back and forth trying to have the most babies. And then Rachel says, hey, slave, go have sex with this man. Go have sex with him and become his wife. The same bullshit that Sarah pulled with Abraham. And these men, these weak ass men, just sit up there and instead of saying, hey, look, that is not good. You have value. Your value to me is way more than just your ability to have babies. Because these women weren't just sitting around the tent doing nothing. These women were working. These women were tending the animals. They making cloths. They keeping everything. They holding down the tent. They doing some stuff. But no, we can't put any value on that. We can only put value on the fact that, but this book is, but Jacob's whole thing is just that. And then he gonna trick old dude like, I'm an honest man. You're gonna know my honesty because I'm gonna separate the speckled sheep and I'm gonna put them way over there. I'm gonna keep your good ones right here. And then if they have any, and I'm gonna keep all the speckled ones for myself. And he kept making speckled sheep and goats and cattle by having them have sex in front of striped wood. And y'all believe that? Y'all believe that? That's illogical. That makes no sense. Those are the things that should make you say, okay, this is all questionable. And if you can't take it, and if you can't have enough discernment to be able to go through this book and say, this little part here, I can apply it to my life. Thou shalt not murder. That's a good part to apply to your life. But how about some thou shalt not have slaves? That's not in this book at all. As a matter of fact, it tells you how to have your slaves. And it tells you what slaves that you can pass down to the next generation. That's not in this book. Women are equal to men. Not in this book. But take the little few parts. But most people don't have that ability. Most people don't. So we have to push pretty much the whole thing aside when you don't. Let's see. I'm down to dive into the serpent topic. I love to hear your thoughts. Oh, there was a serpent topic? I don't think the serpent lied. You know, I did that on a TikTok. And I'm gonna stay on here, even though I'm done with chapter 30. I'm gonna stay on here until dinner time, until I'm called for dinner. Then I gotta go. Well, they didn't die. They lied. They lied till 90. They lived till 90. Live till 90. Okay, so here's the messed up thing about that one. And it's always a conversation here concerning that. Let me see if I can find it because I don't want to misquote nothing. Where's that thing? Lord planted every tree in the garden. It's good for food. First of all, placing the tree of good and evil in the garden and then telling me not to eat from it, and if you really didn't want to eat from it, that was dumb. That was dumb. I have guns. I would never put my guns on the middle of the table fully loaded and tell my kids, hey, I'm putting this gun right here, but don't you touch that gun. No, first of all, they were locked up so that my kids couldn't get to them. But no, I'm just placing the damn tree right in your face. All right. This is the part that people often try to not understand. It says in Genesis chapter 2, 15, and the Lord God, well, let's start, chapter 2, let's start at 15. And the Lord God took the man and put him into the garden of Eden to dress it and to keep it. And the Lord God commanded the man, saying, of every tree of the garden thou mayest eat freely. They mayest eat freely. Mayest freely eat. But of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, thou shalt not eat of it. For in the day that thou eatest thereof, thou shalt surely die. For in the day, in that day. Did I read it? Did I read it right? Did it say in the day that you eat it, thou shalt surely die? I believe that what it said. That what it said. Right? Now, here's the thing that people try to do. They try to jump all the way to 1 Peter. 1 Peter gives an analogy. And the analogy is one day unto man is like 1,000 years. 1 day unto man is like 1,000 years to God. So even though Adam lived to be like 900 and something, and Methuselah was the longest one, was like 956, then they try to say, well, one day to God is 1,000 years. So not one man lived a whole day. No, they were talking about metaphorical with this. That's what they literally meant. In the day that you eat it, you will surely die. And then you have those other people death because then they became separated from God because of the no, they weren't separated from God. Didn't God still hang out with them? Wasn't he still there? Talking, hey Cain, what you do with your brother Abel at? So wasn't he still there? Wasn't he still there? Right. So this whole thing of the time is bogus. It's an analogy, and then people try to leap to that. And the serpent just said, didn't he say that you're gonna die today? You ain't gonna die. He bullshitting you. He said, well, what guys, wait, you know, let me not. Wait it. And the serpent was more subtle than any of the beasts of the field in which the Lord God had made. And he said unto the woman, yea, hath God said, ye shall not eat of every tree in the garden? And the woman said unto the serpent, we may eat of the fruit of the tree in the garden, but in the fruit of the tree of life, tree which is in the midst of the garden, that God said, you shall not eat, or neither shall you touch it, lest ye die. And the serpent said unto the woman, you shall surely not die. For God does know that in the day that you eat it, then your eyes shall be open, and ye shall be as gods, as plural, knowing good and evil. All right. So somebody just had a question up there. Why would they say now gods like us? Right. So the thing about it is, imagine Adam and Eve are like babies. They're like babies. When a baby is born, does the baby know the difference between good and evil? Do they know that if this is mine, if a baby comes and takes it and starts drinking it, the baby doesn't realize they're stealing. They're thirsty. They just want something to drink, right? So Adam and Eve's mind, according to this book, is kind of like children, like small children. They don't know what's good and what's evil. Adam slapped Eve. He don't know he did anything wrong. She was trying to take his apple. She was trying to take his mandrakes. So he was like, give my shit. He didn't know it was wrong. But if you don't know what's right or wrong, then you don't have the ability to reason things out. And so when it says that now you know the difference between good and evil, you become like the gods, and now that you can reason things out. But let me tell you something a little bit different. According to the Sumerian version, for my non-cuneiform readers, but according to the Sumerian version of this story, the thing is that Adamah and Titi were not supposed to be able to reproduce children. But when Enlil came into the garden, he saw that Eve was pregnant. So the tree of knowledge of good and evil was not so much that it was a tree, it was the ability to reproduce is what they weren't supposed to be able to do. But because they were able to reproduce, they became like the Anunnaki. They were able to what's they called? I was going to say procrastinate, but they was able to have a progeny. Have kids. Shit, I'm trying to use big words. Let me stick to regular words. They was able to have kids. So that's what they weren't put into a tree, because in every culture there's the tree of life, right? And the tree of life enables continue to build and grow and branch out. But they weren't supposed to do this because Enlil feel that if they did, they were able to reproduce. If they weren't just clones, then they would one day come into their own consciousness. And when they come into their own consciousness, they'll no longer be okay with being slaves of the Anunnaki. And once they're no longer slaves of the Anunnaki, they will overthrow or try to overthrow the Anunnaki simply because they have so many great numbers. So this whole thing about a tree in a garden was because if you find it, the Anunnaki, when they show the tree of knowledge and the tree of life, it looks like this tree. It has these little branches and stuff. But that's what this is based off of. So when they say become like gods, it's to become like the Anunnaki. Even though Adamah and Titi, in order for them to be, they were infused with Anunnaki blood anyway. They're like test tube babies with Anunnaki blood. So that's where all of that come from. But now when you look at it philosophically, when you look at it esoterically rather, it's the idea that when you can distinguish between good and evil, then that gives you a higher consciousness. That makes you more God-like, because now you can create and you can live your life in a higher moral standards. If we look at a lion doesn't know that if a human is just standing there to take pictures, not doing you any harm, just I'm there to take pictures, you're just food. That's it. They don't distinguish between, is it good for me to go eat the human? because all they see is an animal that they know that they can eat. Although this book says that man is supposed to be dominant over all the animals, not so. But the lion just does what a lion does. It doesn't know the difference between here's a sentient being human who's just chilling. It's just instinctively to eat and survive. So by having that ability to determine rights and wrongs, it makes us more conscious being, which makes us more of a creative mind where we can change how we want to be. We don't have to be instinctive creatures. But in this version, Adam and Eve were just more instinctive creatures. But now the serpent is saying, once you eat from the tree of life, you're no longer an instinctive creature. You are like the gods who have a consciousness and have the ability to reason. What was that? Yeah. In the beginning, there was darkness, and God said, let there be light. What was God doing before then? Sitting in the dark, doing nothing but sitting in the dark. I'm sorry. I couldn't help it. I had a good day today, so I'm a little happy. But no, I mean, God was doing nothing because nothing. I mean, that whole thing is just the Big Bang Theory in a sense. It's the singularity. It's a repetitive process. And even if you didn't go with the repetitive process, then you're right. What was it doing? According to other stories, then when everything was sitting in darkness, then like another conscious being was ruling. Do you believe in devils and demons are real? Not in the sense of devils and demons as far as beings that are just abjectly evil. I believe that the devil is the negative portion of our brain. It's the negative piece that we connect to. And that negative piece oftentimes can overrun our positivity and our good. As far as other beings, when you leave this entity, leave this consciousness, I believe that you either come back to this one or you ascend to a higher plane of existence. But even in that higher plane of existence, you still have good and bad. You're still going to have that duality. And because we have that duality, and because I follow the hermetic laws of, the law of correspondence, as above, so below, I do accept that there are beings of different dimensional planes that can do things here, but they are not outside of our own control here. Nothing can move you unless you allow it to move. Like nobody can put a spell on me unless I am susceptible to that spell. Like nobody is negative. Like, how sometimes you pick up somebody's negative energy and all of a sudden you're negative. It's the same sense. Unless I allow it, it can't happen. So do other beings or other consciousness existing on other dimensional planes? I agree. Can they affect me? Only if I let them. What? I'm a lesbian, 17, and I have a fiance. Okay, I don't know why that statement was made. Okay, I've come in on something deep. If we came back with full memories, I thought about that, but you know what? That movie, The Eternals, kind of like let you. How many memories can you handle? How many deaths and losses and emotional loss can you handle? You remember when Angelina Jolie character went into that mad reverie is because she started remembering all the worlds that they had lived on and all the times that they had lived. I don't know if you had lived multiple times, how many wives and husbands and daughters and mothers and fathers have you lost? How much pain and agony have you suffered through? Can you really handle all those full memories? Right? How do we get a soul? Well, I believe the spirit is the vibration that moves the soul. The soul is the actual piece of the creator, the consciousness of the creator that we were separated from, making us then slow to light. So this Anunnaki, how are they? I've heard about this. Hope I spelled it right. Yeah, you spelled Anunnaki right. I don't understand what you're asking. Do you believe in Reiki? Yeah, I do think that you can affect another person's energy with your own, if they're willing. It's just like when I go to the chiropractor, she always fuss at me because she was like, stop resisting. I can't crack your neck or your back because you keep resisting. So she can't do it unless I allow her to do it. And I have to relax and let her openly do it. The Anunnaki, I do, but I look, even though people pick on the ancient astronaut theory, there's too many old writings. Like there's one group, I think it's like somewhere in Central America where they talk about Onyana, I think it's Onyana, that she came down in a glistening golden spaceship, and she came out and she was to be the mother of Earth, and she had 70 kids, and then she got back in her ship and she left, and then she was supposed to come back. Like that's a telling from this one particular Central American indigenous people's story. Like all these indigenous people, all these people from different areas of the world all have stories of how the gods came down. And even when you look at this book, it's talking about how the God descended upon the mountain with great fire and smoke and all that. Sounds like a damn spaceship landed to me. Reiki, enjoy your teachings. Thank you. Appreciate you guys. Reginald, you just not jumped on all late, man. I'm about to be open. Keep up the great work. I appreciate it. I will do my best, sir. Why doesn't any of those miracles and strange things in the Bible happen in these modern times? Which is a very, very valid question. Mind you guys, I'm both on YouTube and TikTok, so that's why I go back and forth with it, answering different questions. And you may not see somebody's questions. That's why. But yeah, Reiki healing, I do. But you don't see these things because these things, none of the people who wrote this wrote it at the time frame that any of it happened. So it would be in the same sense that most of the people who wrote about, what's the damn dude name? Hell, let's use one from Black History. His name just fell out of my head. Everybody's names is falling out of my head. What's the dude with the, he beat the steam engine through the mountain? John Henry. Yeah. Like the story of John Henry wasn't written when John Henry was alive. It was written after John Henry died. Right. So then the story gets legendized into the idea of in one day, John Henry had with a pickaxe went through a mountain. No person, period, can ever do that, make it through a mountain in one day. So over time, a story gets exaggerated. The story of Hercules. Hercules was a king of Argos, but as time went on, he got legendized into the 12 trials, and then he was the son of Zeus, you know, a demigod, half mortal, half God. And then upon his death, he rose up into the heavens, and now there's a constellation called Hercules. It got legendized. So these miracles and things like that are legendized. You know, it may be a level of truth to them. Maybe a level. Did the Anunnaki actually come and make slaves out of humans? You know, increased our DNA so that we evolve faster? Sure, it's possible. What the Anunnaki, because if you think about this, if a person shows up with superior technology, right, and superior language and their bodies and superior medicines, a more primitive people will call them gods, right? Is that not what is plausible? That if you showed up and you got these people, the only thing they ever seen fly was a bird, but here comes people descending on ships and thunder, and they got lasers and they got technology that they can heal the body from things that previously people were dying from. You would say they are gods. And according to most of the Sumerian drawings and a lot of the Kemetic drawings, these people were like 15 to 30 feet tall. You're sitting there at like 5 foot, and here's a 30-foot tall dude, and he can kick the shit out of everybody. And then he got weapons of, you know, he got all kind of weapons and stuff. And what is it that they say? Technology that is far superior to other people is considered magic, that those people would consider it magic. The same thing will be considered when you think about how people will perceive the beings that are producing this magic, that they are gods. So you're not going to see these things happen. You ain't gonna see any talking snakes. You ain't gonna ever see that. Because they anthropomorphize animals all the time back in them days. Modern times. Do you believe in the Kemetic idea that when we die, our soul ascends to Orion and then we go through the Milky Way? Nope. I believe that at the end of the day, when your soul, whatever you truly, truly believe in your subconscious mind, that is exactly what's going to happen. So a lot of these people who believe that they're going to come back, they're going to come back. A lot of these people who believe that they're going to go to some kind of hell, they're going to go to some kind of hell. These people who believe they're going to go to this boring ass heaven, their mind could project them to some boring ass heaven. It is what it is. I believe the mind is that powerful, And then here's the messed up part. No, none of us will ever know. We will never know until we go, until it's our time. You never see the so-called Godlands and crashing planes or lifting kids into the air, and you don't see that. Yeah, you won't see none of those things happen. No, I'm not throwing off. I'm done with the chapter that we came to do. Do you believe Jesus had a twin? His name was Judas Thomas. Judas Didymus Thomas. Nope. I don't think that Judas Didymus Thomas was Jesus's twin that was born. Jesus as a historical character is one thing that's different from the Bible. Josephus, who is the only historian who was the first, let me not say only, he's the first historian to actually write about anyone named Yeshua, actually wrote about 4 different Yeshuas. Like there was a Yeshua who went not unto Pilate, but to a different governor named Quintilius or something like that. Quintius. There was a different Yeshua that had a brother James. There was a different Yeshua that was flipping tables. There were 4 different Yeshuas that were distinctively different that Josephus talked about. It's not until you start getting into Pliny the Younger and Tacitus, who they're not writing about Jesus because they knew Jesus. They're writing about Christians, or they call them Christians, and they were writing about them and how they should treat them. And then like 182 years later, you get Irenaeus is writing. Well, the story's been legendized, or it's becoming more and more legend. So, and you got the Christians sinking into one, like adding, well, this person, they wrote about this and they wrote about that. And then they start putting stuff together. And then we know that Matthew and Mark were the first ones, and Mark was the oldest one. But you can tell that the writers of Luke and John were using Mark as a reference and literally copying some of it. So Jesus as a historical character is a compilation of people. Kind of like if you ever read Uncle Tom's Cabin, Sambo and Uncle Tom are actually the same damn person. It's the different stages that Hansen went through in his life. And so he's the same person. It's just this is in reverse. You got 4 people that they made into one, and then they added other stories from other people into the story as time goes on. So I don't think none of those people to me existed. Thomas didn't exist. James, Peter, none of these people existed. There's absolutely no proof outside of the Bible that they ever existed. And all the historians and writings and manuscripts that was written after were all written by no one who knew him, no one who was around at the time or even alive at the time. So there's no eyewitness accounts of anything. And people like to say, well, they're writing based on the eyewitness of the eyewitness. No, if you go to court now, eyewitness testimony is not really taken seriously most of the time. But no, you're not throwing me off. My friend really needs. Your friend really needs Jesus? No, your friend really needs themselves. They need to know and understand the love of themselves, the appreciation of themselves, the power that they have within themselves. It is not an outside being that you need in order to have a full life, in order to live a moral life, in order to create and manifest what you need in life. I don't need Allah or Muhammad or Krishna or Jesus or Yeshua or Quetzalcoatl or Enlil or Inky or no one. What I need is the inner knowledge of who I am, and that everything can be manifested and created in my life if I decide that that's what it's going to be. And even when I come up against obstacles, I have to decide, do I want to increase my vibration enough to overcome those obstacles? You say a person needs Jesus, that's your opinion that they need Jesus because that's what you believe in. Just because you believe in it doesn't mean that somebody else is going to have the same effect. Hence why there are most of the people in prison who have committed rape, murder, and theft and all this are Christians in America. And they are most of them in prison. But it's also very interesting how many of them who square their lives away usually have found a different religion, because everybody is not going to click with the same story. So you have to make way and not be so over. You should just want that person to be able to find something in their life about themselves that connects with them so that they can grow and become whatever they desire to be. Not you got to force Jesus on them. I don't know. I don't know what you're talking about, Cookie. So when Nero started fires and said black people did it in Rome, Nero started the fires, but he blamed Christians for it. But he blamed some Christians, and only a few became, and those were the Messianic Christians that he blamed. He didn't blame the Orthodox Christians. So you got to get that part straight. It wasn't Orthodox Christians that he blamed. He blamed some Messianic Christians, because Messianic Christians were causing problems within the Roman government, right? So because they were causing problems within the Roman government, they were easy to blame, because they, like the Jews, wouldn't accept having a statue of Caesar that they bow down to once a year. So he blamed them for that. But there were other black people within Rome who weren't Christian, or Christians at the time, what they call them. And really, there was so few during the reign of Nero. You really didn't start getting Christians into the reign of until you get into Vespasian and Titus, the Flavian. It's within the Flavian dynasty that you start getting it. But Christian churches like to hold on to Nero because of the propaganda of the Flavian dynasty, in order to make the Julio-Claudians the worst emperors of Rome by writing a whole bunch of propaganda. So they tried to make them out to be worse, when actually the person who killed the most non-Messianic Christians was actually a Flavian. That was Theodosius in 480. But Nero, Vespasian had to really kill Nero's lineage. And so he did whatever he had to do. He did whatever he could. Love talking to you too. I love me with all my heart. Inner knowledge, yes. What is your view of Black Law Dictionary? Okay, that ain't really. I mean, Black's Law Dictionary, depends on what you're talking about, man. It's just like a big wrong. I know I use Black's Law Dictionary, Black's Law, in order to get out of police harassing me. So let's see. How do you explain modern exorcism and miracles in the name of Jesus? The same way that I would explain modern exorcisms and miracles in the name of Krishna, in the name of Brahma, in the name of any other deity that people claim them to be. One of the best examples that I can give of that is there is this video that's out there. It is a non-traditional Chinese hospital where they utilize your energy to heal you. So there was a woman who had a tumor, and they got this woman, they prepped her up for like a month or two. And then they got the 4 people that was in the room, they prepped them up for a month or two. And they were doing this chant, and all they were doing in their mind, they had zero doubt that they were in the presence of a healed woman. And as they was doing this, they showed the tumor decreasing in her body. Now, the exorcism or whatever else will be the same way to me. If a person have no doubt in their mind that whatever they're doing is changing the energy flow within them, whether you want to say they've been exercised or and let me clear, there's no such thing as miracles, but whatever that is, then that's just their energy and their energy, their manifestation, their own mental creation. And a miracle is just things that we don't know what is the causation factor. There's cause and effect. Everything has a cause, everything has an effect. There is no such thing as something without a cause and without a causation. So there is no such thing as a miracle. A miracle is just something we don't know what the causation factor is. Still waking up from religion. Already read The Kabbalion. Love The Kabbalion. Could you please suggest another books? Oh, hey, what's up, Errol? Have you read, let's see, The Kabbalion? I like Outwitting the Devil by Napoleon Hill. It really like gets you out of this idea of the devil being some mystical beast, you know, and it really gets you more into like you are the one that moves things. I like the Tao. The Tao is not a religion. The Tao is a philosophy. And one of the first things the Tao says is that the moment you give the Tao, and the Tao is the way or the creator, God, however you want to phrase it. The moment you give the Tao a name, it no longer is the Tao. The moment you put the Tao in a book, it is no longer a book because you've caged it in to where it's small now. So the way, the energy that flows throughout the entire universe that is well beyond what our current understanding is so big and vast that and so complex that our simplicity right now can't even fathom, you know, all that it is. So when we put it into a book, so give it a name or give it a religion, then it is no longer that. Because just like the all says, oh, appreciate that, Errol. Just like the all, it says, the all is in all, and the all is the all, right? And the moment the all can never separate itself from itself, nor can the all ever be not in the presence of itself. Because the moment you take a piece of the all away, it is no longer the all. So the moment you put it in a book, it's no longer a book. The moment it becomes man in the flesh, it's no longer God. I mean, think about it. How can John say, how can Jesus scream out, how can you, my God, why hast thou forsaken me? Even if for a millisecond, there's a separation between the two, then neither side is the all anymore. That makes it not the all. That makes it not God. That makes it not eternal. That makes it not omnipresent, omniscient, whatever else you want to add to it. Y'all about to get me. I know dinner got to be ready. Now, she might just be nice and not saying anything to me, and ain't going to fuss at me because I'm here. All heathens. Okay, Cookie. This is my channel. I don't mind when people of Christianity or whatever come on here, but what you're not going to do is call people names, bro. Because I'm not sitting on here calling Christians idiots or ignorant. I'm not sitting on here calling Christians naive and all that kind of stuff. So don't you dare come onto my channel and start calling people who don't agree with you heathens. If you can't have an intelligent conversation with the people on here or with myself, then you need to carry ass on, or I'll just block you either way. But I'm going to give you the opportunity to still be there, but you're going to speak respectfully to everybody. Because what we're not going to do is have disrespect. He said, take this cup from me. Exactly. Can't take the cup. If you God, then you're like, oh man, I got this. Hell, I'm gonna let him kill me, but I ain't really dead because I'm coming back in 3 days. So I'm the all, so I can't die because I'm eternal. So there's really no death. So I don't even know why people get all of this as death. It's not a death. Like, how can you have and this is a whole nother video I was going to talk about. How can you have a death? You can't kill something that is, if Jesus is God and God is eternal, how can you kill eternity? You can't. So there is no death. The death of his flesh, meaning that he made a fleshly sacrifice. It was the blood. But that blood, that body is still the all. If that blood, that body is still the all, then it's still always eternal. So how can you kill it? You can't. So there is no sacrifice. But it is about time for me to get off here because I'm pretty sure that dinner is upstairs ready right now. And my basement is cold as all get out. It is cold down here. I'm going to light this fireplace behind me later in a few. If miracles are not real, then how do you explain producing gold necklace out of thin air? I've never seen that before. But that's the thing. What we call miracles is causation, is effects that we don't know the cause. But I'll look that up because I've never seen that before. But guys, I gotta go. Appreciate it. We did a good hour and some change. We did an hour and 19 minutes. And I'm not gonna disrespect dinner that's being made upstairs. That was Egypt problem. Man, ain't no Hebrews ever even been, and there wasn't no Hebrew slaves in Egypt. So I'm gonna go eat. Y'all have a great day. We will do this again on a live either next Monday or Tuesday. It'll be Monday or Tuesday. Those are my 2 days right now that I have the most availability. So next Monday or Tuesday, in and around about the same time, we're going to hit We're going to keep with what's wrong with the Bible, and we'll if I get time opportunities to do other lives, we'll do other lives with other conversations. So if you're on TikTok, please go over and subscribe to my YouTube page. The YouTube is Larenzo Reid, LarenzoReid, LarenzoReid. You can find that in the bio on TikTok, but go subscribe to the YouTube page. There are 1,000+ videos on my YouTube page dealing with this subject matter and many and other subject matters as well, because I do like to talk about business and what's going on in the Black community as well. So I appreciate you guys. Manifest your gift. If you go to the YouTube, it'll be on the YouTube channel. The replay is on the YouTube channel. So LarenzoReid, Larenzo Reid. It'll be on the YouTube. And as soon as I hit end stream. So y'all have a great day. Remember, you have to free yourself to be yourself, because your greatness is non-negotiable. And y'all have a great, great evening. I'm going to have dinner.